Membership Plus. We want to be your go-to source for insightful and pop-cultured movie reviews. If you have not seen The Tag, hopefully you did, you are in the spoilered discussion, meaning the movie breakdown, ending breakdown of CurryBarker's Obsession, starring Michael Johnston and a possibly groundbreaking performance by Indenavarrette. So you might want to check out the spoiler-free episode. That's going to be in the link in the description. But right now we are going to spoil the shizzazz out of Obsession. So when this movie opens, basically Bear, and by the way, Alicia Silverstone's son is named Bear. So there are people naming their kids Bear, folks. But Bear is rehearsing how to tell, I forget her name, how to tell Indenavarrette's character that he kind of has a crush on her. So they have this, when Harry met Sally, kind of like friendship. They tell each other everything. And during this first scene, he's being coached by his friend Ian, played by Cooper Tomlinson. And then come to find out, as the rest of the movie goes, he's looking for like a gift for her because he wants to sort of like pop the question, I guess, or at least, tell her he likes her or has feelings for her. And he goes to this shop. By the way, I would have bought the voodoo doll and not the One Wish Willow because the voodoo dolls were really cute. But he goes to this shop, which is kind of like new agey. So he buys something called One Wish Willow, which I don't know how it plays the music. It's weird, but you open it, it plays music. You pull it out, and I guess it breaks a tether, and at that point you have to make this wish. You make the wish, you break what is this, it's like wood, it looks like wood, it looks like a weird like
those things that you used to put your fingers into.
The finger trap, the Chinese finger trap. Doesn't go as well as he thought. It's really super awkward when he drops off, Indenavarrette, and then in frustration he kind of breaks it and he says, I wish that she would love me above all others in the world, right? And then almost immediately she's under the effects of this wish. And as we would often think, because she loves him over everybody else, she starts doing all of these crazy things.
Remember, as soon as he snaps it, I love that he says it really quick. I wish that'd be more than anything in the world. Snaps it, and then all of a sudden, we look through the side window of his car, and you see her standing in the shadows.
She's just
after we thought she went inside.
Oh my
and that was
God.
just like, oh shit! You just opened up Pandora's box. You are in for it.
And speaking of the oh shit, I forgot to mention that before this, his cat actually dies. Kevin, what did you think about her going over the top and the behavior and the gore with regards to the Indenavarrette character? Like, how did that stuff hit you?
It's Nikki. You got to remember, it's Freaky Nikki. That's it.
Yes, Freaky Nikki.
Her character name. Like, the over the top nature becomes fun, and then becomes scary and terrifying and constant. But one of the really smart things that Barker does is there are so many little identifiable moments. Like, we've all probably been in the company of some couple that's a bit too close. The people of the shared Facebook profiles, and the people are just like, where you going, baby? I missed you when you go for a wee wee, like that, and you get really annoyed. This is that taken to the nth degree, but there's still that reality at the heart of it between those people who don't want to let each other go, and especially the times when one or both do want to be separate for a little while, but then can't get that space. That's one of the many things layered through it, and the craziness and the extremes that play out later on all come from that. So it actually, the change is quick in Nikki's character, but it doesn't feel like an unbelievable 0 to 100 for someone put in that position. Like, it's bizarrely grounded for how ridiculous and far-fetched it's wanting to go. Yeah.
E.f., was there a sequence out of all of the insanity that happens in this film? Was there one that really stood out to you and that really turned your stomach?
It's tough to choose because, like I said in the other episode, it's like at a certain point onward, it just was a continuing stomach churning for me. First of all, just the idea that after he makes the wish, she's now in love with him. And in my head, I'm already going, well, like, this has to be against, like, this is not her. This is not, this is not real. Like, there's no consent, I guess. And it's just, and that, like, already made me feel really weird. And it only got worse when, right after that, after he makes the wish and she's, like, talking to him and she's into him. But then there's this weird thing where, like, she kind of snaps in and out of it. While she's talking, and it's like where she, for a second, kind of like the real Nikki, I guess you could say, like, comes back and doesn't realize what's going on, and then she goes back to being, obsession Nikki. And at that point, I just felt so bad for her. And it goes like that throughout the whole movie. But you're asking me to pick one part, and I'll just pick, like, what first one that comes to mind is when she goes with him to Ian's party. And what's cool about it is, it's really uncomfortable, but there are those moments of humor in there. Sometimes at the same time, like when they're playing the Jenga game and she, after that first time, where she reads out a part of this book that she wrote, that's a whole other thing. But
you tell us what that book was about right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
seriously.
it was about, like, some, like, brother and sister thing where she's like
Gretel having.
Yeah,
it's like where she's like, I know you're my brother, but I want you inside me. And it just, like, the entire room, like, halts after she reads that, where she recites that. As an audience,
we're realizing that the relationship that they'd always had was she thought of him as a brother and they were having sex. And you're realizing, oh, shit, like, this is not consent. She is, like, getting raped by, quote unquote, her brother.
Yeah. And then that same scene, when Bear, he pulls the Jenga block and his thing is, kiss the person to your left. And that happens to be their friend and coworker, Sarah. And there's this great shot. It just stays on them. It's a 2-shot of Bear and Sarah. And then suddenly in the foreground, you see Nikki just stand up into frame, like in protest. And then she slowly walks over behind Sarah. And that's really creepy. But then she takes Sarah's chair and pulls Sarah out of the way, and that's hilarious. I just thought that because she does it real slow, and you could even hear the chair like while she's pulling her away, and it's both creepy and hilarious. Barker is really good at straddling that fence of, like, the humor and the horror.
I think it frowned.
It immediately cuts to her, like. So I think it's also key that, like, Barker is his own editor, because that sequence is masterfully edited, and really, really well done. Johnston's reaction during all of that is just, it's incredible. But, you bring up the consent thing where basically, the real Nikki kind of comes out and she freaks out, like, where am I? What is happening? And that's what I think makes this so edgy, is the fact that it brings in that whole consent thing. Like, it's his wish, but what about her? And this just makes me think of this sort of ridiculous consent controversy over Wonder Woman 1984. Really, folks, we're going to take the consent issue to Wonder Woman 1984, because if you remember, like, Chris Pine is not really Chris Pine or what, anyway. But this one, the consent issue is definitely in there, and it is distressing and uncomfortable. Mike, what did you think of that? Because we do come to realize that maybe her soul is trapped somewhere, because he calls the One Wish Willow person, who, by the way, is CurryBarker, and he's like, would you like to talk to her? She's here. And all you hear is this screaming. Like, it's terrible. But what did you think of adding that into this whole monkey's paw revisionist horror?
Shout out to the substance. That seems like that's kind of kept creeping up, is weird companies that offer some kind of strange concoction to help people with their issues, and then you call their number and find out that this shit's real. It's creepy. But that scream, like he's talking, he's like, do you want to talk to her? And then she starts to scream. And there's so many moments, and that's why I think Navarrette, just like I felt like with Toni Collette before her and Mia Goth, we just don't get enough horror attention for actresses and actors from the Academy or whatever. So I think that she deserves an Academy Award for this, or at least a nomination, just like I thought the same with Colette, Hereditary. So, but yes, going back to this, I'm guessing some kind of witch takes over her body. So she's almost trapped by some kind of a witch or evil spirit that's the one that's actually in love with Bear.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize
genie.
that. And like you said, that sequence at the party when she snaps and you realize she knows, this is not me. She breaks the bottle and starts jabbing herself in the fucking face.
Oh my
I screamed and jumped like I have not screamed in the theater in so long. Every bit of gore and violence comes like that. It comes like a slap and a smash, and you just are not expecting it. You realize at that moment, that solidifies that holy shit. There is something wrong. And also, it shows that this generation, as much as they scream and holler, mental health, nobody reached out to her. Nobody tried to help her. Nobody, except for the one friend, showed up to try to find out what was going on after she fucking stabbed herself in the face. We see a mental health crisis in front of us, and everybody just kind of acts scared and stands back. And then the next thing we know, they're just driving off, left the party, and her face is covered in blood and beat the fuck up.
Yeah.
But there's so many little things that this movie does that's underneath the surface that makes fun of this new generation of kids. The fact that they're so worried about consent, but at the same time, he's so cautious about it. But the guy's kind of an incel. He's taking advantage of this girl. And even when he realizes it, it turns back to, but what about me? I'm a nice guy. You just want to strangle him.
Actually, that brings me to the next point of discussion, which is the fact that, there's a lot of polarization from the audience about these characters. I happen to think that he's kind of the villain of the piece, right?
He is 120 fucking percent the villain.
Yeah, totally. And so it's weird because at no point does he ever say, okay, you're not going to believe this. I made this wish, and that's why she's acting crazy out of the blue. And he only does it out of desperation. And then we all see what happens. His stupid, dumb friend doesn't think it's real. And instead of helping him, he's like, I want $1 billion. And he breaks the thing, and then suddenly it's raining cash. That was
money.
The craziest fucking scene. But like, Kevin, he tries to make it work versus immediately trying to figure out what's with this one willow wish or whatever, or crying for help, right? What did you think about our lead actually being the villain, the person that we're supposed to be like, okay, he finally got what he wanted, like he's a nice guy? What are your thoughts on that?
I loved it because Barker keeps making it clear that he's a villain. Like, he keeps putting that out there, and if people come away from this not thinking that, then they haven't taken everything. I think there might be one point where he's called Baron. I can't remember, but he is called Bear. And I just thought just now, is that because the saying about women will always choose a bear over a man?
Yes, I think so.
Everywhere.
Yes.
But everyone's mentioned Ari Aster as well. I got a real talk to me vibe from this because it is important about knowing that Nikki's somewhere else. It is important to hear the screams. And, Bear might pretend he's wanting the best for her as well as him. But there are times where the real Nikki creeps out and says, I can't remember, I think she literally says, kill me or end it or something.
Yeah, she's so... I think at some point she's so regressed inside of the Obsession Nikki that she can only come out when Obsession Nikki's asleep. And so in bed, she's like, I don't want this. Kill me. And then Bear just leaves. Like, he doesn't even address it.
He says, begs him, kill me, please. And he responds with, what's so bad about being with me?
Ugh.
Yeah. That's what he says. Yeah. And at that point, I already disliked him and he was the villain. But at that point, it was like, fucking die, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I just like, oh my God. And I told you, my stomach is just in knots. It was just like a bad feeling. But oh yeah, fuck this guy. Like, it just confirms
What's interesting too is, in response, she says, I've never been with you.
Yes.
And that just like sells it.
Probably no coincidence that it comes before like the biggest, worst moment in the film, which he causes everything, undoubtedly, but he specifically causes that. The film would play very differently if he made this wish, this had happened, and the rest of the film is, oh, how do I reverse this wish? Oh, we're stuck. Nikki's stuck. I don't know. That's a very different thing, and it would remove the ability to clearly see the awfulness of his character. And I
Yeah.
like that Barker's been like, here's your main character. This one's a real piece of shit.
Yeah. And you know,
this
honestly,
one is not the nice guy you think once this starts.
and honestly, like, you know, it could have easily, like you said, it could have easily been Wishmaster. Even if, as I'm watching this, I'm like, why not go to the shop and see how to reverse this? Which, by the way, he does. And then that guy's an asshole too. He's
I
like,
love the curio shop sequences. They're so funny.
like, who are these people? That guy was even ruder than the girl. And then, you know, we come to, there's a couple things we come to realize. There are these unspoken rules, right? I love the commentary on customer service where the guy's like, would you like to cancel your wish? And then he's like, okay, fine. I'll cancel the wish. And he's like, we don't do that. Then why would you offer it as an option, right? Like, that was so frustrating to me. But it turns out Ian and Nikki were sleeping with each other behind his back, which is ironic because Ian is the one who keeps encouraging him to tell his feelings to Nikki. But then I was thinking back, he also like cock blocks him every single time in the subsequent scenes. So it's kind of like, oh, we should have seen this coming, right? Sarah says she was going to friend zone you. And so, you know, even he comes to this realization it was never going to happen. And so, you know, with this wish, he's sort of trapped her. But I think the craziest sequence, you know, Sarah actually bears her feelings to him. And it turns out that they're the ones that have the connection. They're the ones who've been growing close, that have been having this conversation. And I'm thinking back to that time where she's having heart to heart with him after he eats the cat sandwich. Jesus Christ. The cat sandwich thing was fucking insane. As if, oh, I made a memorial of your cat in the kitchen, in the middle of the fucking kitchen with candles. Like, God, woman, what is wrong with you? But anyway, so then she shows up and then she mashes her face into like a brick, like in the car. Like, that scene, I was ready to like scream. But EF, what did you think about the fact that he finally gets a true intimate connection with a female and then almost immediately her head gets bashed in? And what I think is the goriest, awful scene from this film.
It's funny because like during that scene, my thoughts, everything were with Sarah. I was so checked out on him where like I didn't even think about what you just said. Where like, oh man, like I just thought like, oh, why is she interested in this guy? Also, before Nikki comes in and bashes her head in, she takes out the envelope with the what turns out to be the acceptance letter to this art school that she wants to go to. And when she's talking to him about it, like, oh, let's open it, you know? I thought like, oh my God, is this the young person's version of the old cop being 2 days from retirement? And sure enough,
yes.
10 seconds later, smash, you know? So It wasn't as much of a shock. It was more shocking in the kind of violence that is done to her, but not that she was killed. But now that you say that, it's one of those deals where he is so into a girl who I felt like even from the beginning, I don't think she was into, you could see that she wasn't like into him in that way. But meanwhile, here's someone who's actually, who wants to, okay, earlier in the film, they're at this bar. And of course, CurryBarker has to do this stupid thing where like, it's called Barker's Pub. And it's like in the middle of the shot where there's this really important scene. I actually thought it was distracting. It's like, okay, we get it, Quentin. You made this movie. And it's like, it's got to be everything about, you know, he's one of those guys, I think. He's going to be a me type of director. I bet the next movie is probably going to be like, you know, CurryBarker's whatever, a CurryBarker film written by CurryBarker, and then you know, and then you know, and then Curry's going to do. Like
oh my God, it's going to be CurryBarker's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'll tell you, it will be. I you know what? I'm not even going to take that bet, sir. I bet you I could see that. Like you know, I saw a recent picture of CurryBarker, and apparently, like he's like one of these dudes who like wears sunglasses everywhere now, like shaded sunglasses. Like he's Mr. Cool. I was like, I don't know. That's a whole other thing. Sorry. So we do quick episodes here. I'm sorry. So he wants to talk to Nikki, and she is kind of like she's just kind of like busting his balls and stuff. But then after Sarah comes and he opens up to her about his cat dying. And
Yes.
and right there, it's kind of established, like with that scene, and then carried on later with the lunch scene at work, that Sarah's the one who like actually is interested in talking to him and like
Yes.
wanting him to open up to her and stuff like that. And like he just doesn't see that because he's too busy, feeling butthurt that his crush is going to quit and likely move out of town or whatever. He's upset about how that affects him, as opposed to like, oh, hey, this girl wants to move on and be a writer and all that kind of thing. And so it's almost this messed up punishment for him that here is a girl who probably loved you and cared about you, and now that you realize it, she's about to die.
Yeah.
And so I just and going back to him being a piece of shit, Nikki kills two people in the film and makes a cat sandwich and does a whole bunch of other like messed up things, and yet like I said before, he's 120% the villain. She's just the monster that he created. You don't blame Frankenstein's monster for what happened.
True.
You blame Dr. Frankenstein, and that's the only like the main thing that was running through my head while watching the movie and going, oh, my stomach hurts. This is not a good feeling, but it's a good movie.
You get two different sides of the toxic masculinity in this, right?
Yeah.
You get Cooper Tomlinson's side, who again, once it's all unpacked, we realize that Indy actually has a crush on his character, and she's quitting because she knows that he's not into her and she's into him, and she's leaving that shop because of that. And he has no feelings for her and trying to dish him out to her quote unquote brother like best friend. So he's really the first true asshole of the whole movie. He's the one who's created this entire thing. Instead of really realizing that Bear and the other girl should be together, they have feelings for each other. That's probably where it should have originally went. Instead, this asshole doesn't want Indy anymore. He's got the hot girl, doesn't want her anymore, and makes him, his nerdy friend, feel like, no, she's really into you, bro. She's really into you. This whole thing is about the men's side, and we're seeing these men fuck over these women like hardcore this entire film. And that's really what's happening, is because of the desires and the wants of these fucking stupid ass, creepy ass fuckers. These women are murdered and tortured and gone through hell. So that's really what this movie was for me, was the obsession was created by these fucking assholes. If it wasn't for Cooper Tomlinson's character doing what he did, which put Bear into the situation, it led to everything happening the way it did.
Well, but he, it's still a choice, and he chose to. So I go back and forth on this. Like, I don't think he thought the wish would actually fucking work, but that was still a choice that he took, regardless of all of these things sort of swirling in his life. And I think the film has an interesting commentary to say about, the fact that we don't share our feelings. If we were just a little more transparent about what we were feeling in the moment, maybe we wouldn't have these kinds of like issues. Bear wants to try to make this work. And I did like that, like E.f. had said, this whole, it was almost as if he was dealing with a partner that had mental illness, and he was trying to make it work, but he's trying to make it work for all the wrong reasons. Kevin, do you want to set up for the friends and listeners how the film actually ends, and then how you felt about that particular ending?
Things escalate, and eventually it is Bear and Nikki in his apartment. So he looks to swallow some of the medication that we know killed the cat, and we saw "do not eat" on the bottle. Nikki has a gun, and Bear gets the gun as well, so you think he's going to maybe shoot himself, swallow the pills. He pukes. He's with Nikki. He dies, and then Nikki is about to shoot herself with the gun and comes to like that. And it's not looking like a rosy, nice future for her, looking around that apartment. I thought, and maybe with E.f. mentioning that Tales from the Crypt episode, maybe I was thinking of that. I did think it was either going to be a botched gunshot or a botched overdose would leave Bear comatose, and he would be cared for life by
her.
Nikki, and wouldn't be able to communicate his not wanting that situation, and that would be really dark and twisted. But I also
he would be in the same state that she was in a sense. That's actually I like that ending. I'm just glad that they didn't pussy out, because I thought maybe he was gonna not kill himself. But I love that. That's really the only way that this could have ended. Quite honestly.
Well, you're forgetting the snap. you're forgetting the snap in the background, because she actually,
Of
there was
course,
a
yes.
second whistle, or Willow, and she snaps it, and I'm guessing she wished for him to have the same feelings for her, because throughout it starts to flip, where not Nikki, who was obsessed with Bear, is realizing that he's not as obsessed with her as she is. So I think at that moment he wishes, because right after he takes the pills, he gets up and like robotically walks towards her and lays on her and then dies on her. And I kind of love that that's how it ended.
Okay, so as people know with this podcast, I will get interpretations of films wrong. I saw the split Willow, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
And you heard the music that
So
and then
wait
he
a minute,
gets up and acts like a zombie and walks towards her and then lays on her and then dies.
So is that why she shot the guy in the head when he showed up? Because she didn't.
Not Nikki was getting rid of everybody that was in the way of her obsession. Everybody that was in the way of not Nikki's obsession, who was obsessed with Bear, had to go. And she wanted him to be as obsessed with him as she was. And so in the end, she did that snap.
Okay.
I
was wondering why it was there. Yeah.
And she
The
snaps
obsessive.
He kind of gets up, and you can see the way he gets up out of the bathroom and walks towards her, like, and lays on her. And then,
okay. Now I get it. It's kind of like the gift of the Magi, right?
yep,
Like
it comes back to him. Yeah. So he died not being himself. So he kind of got what he deserved in a way. But it would have been better what Kevin said. That would have been much better.
And then we kind of get that Pearl ending where the credits are rolling and she's just screaming because she's woken up and she's realized what the hell has all happened or whatever.
There's a lot of Pearlisms. Remember when she's sitting there with the face as she's pissing herself? There's so much that you can tell she was really into Mia Goth when she made this.
Or how about the part where like there's a couple great sequences too where she comes out with like the gun and she's like and then she goes okay and then just leaves, right? Or in the bedroom when she's like walking sideways with like flower or whatever. Like I just remember the audience being like, "Oh shit, she crazy."
And he's like, "Please don't walk weird like that anymore. You're walking weird at night."
Don't cook the cat. Don't cook the cat.
Speaking of the bedroom, I've got to. I know EF will agree because he's mentioned stomach churning many times. That's probably the most uncomfortable sex scene I've watched in a long time.
Yeah,
because I was watching it just thinking, this is rapey. This is really
moaning and
because
saying
the
yes,
lack of
that's what her
consent
face
is
is playing.
it's
gross.
Horrible. It's really uncomfortable.
It's
and it
super
should be.
gross.
It's really like well done for again showing this isn't right. This isn't consensual. This isn't a happy, healthy relationship. Even though on the surface they may be two young adults who would be allowed to have sex together, this is no good. And again, kudos to Barker for like making that abundantly clear throughout.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if you miss it, maybe stop going to movies. By the way, I think my favorite part was stay. He tries to get out of the bed and she just screams.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fuck, she's nuts. But yeah, at any rate, Mike, we've been kind of talking over you. Any final thoughts about this? I was calling this Barker's debut. It's not, although feature-length debut. How about that? And it's really promising. I really hope he doesn't fuck up Texas Chainsaw. But Mike, any final thoughts on this? We covered a lot of ground.
I know we did. I loved this. And if you want to make a really good like triple viewing with your friends and wow them with how cool and smart you are, watch Companion together and this in a threesome. You will wow your friends and think of how woke and how awesome you are, because those three together would really work.
Yeah, I was a little afraid after the extended trailer came out where they gave away fucking everything for this film, that I was like, oh shit, it just looks like Companion. But thank God it does not speak of that. EF, any final thoughts on this? I feel like we did cover everything. Anything else you want to add about the film?
Not unless you have another 2 hours. But I think so I'll just wrap it up and say that it is, like I said, top-notch feel-bad horror film. This is just, it's really good. It's really unsettling, but it's also really funny. And which makes it even more unsettling. If you like the, Ari Aster type movies, you'll dig this because it has that kind of vibe to it. And we gave props to Johnston. He's really good in the film, but definitely the showy role, the more noticeable role, and I think a very good role, is played by Indenavarrette. And I don't think it's out of line to say that she's earned the key to the executive washroom that's exclusive to Isabella Johnny in Possession, Toni Collette in Hereditary, and Mia Goth in Pearl. And in fact, actually, what I would like to see, I mean, I'm glad things worked out the way they work out in the end, but you could still make a spin-off, and we've had Godzilla versus King Kong, we've had Freddy versus Jason, we've had Batman v Superman. I want to see Nikki v Pearl, or I want to see, or it could be like Deadpool and Wolverine. It could be Nikki and Pearl, and they could just
or Nikki versus Sadako, because when she bashes her face and she looks like the Ring, she's got her hair in front of her, So that would be interesting. Yeah. Kevin, final thoughts on this?
I hope, people won't have listened to this until they've seen it, but I hope we've reminded them of why I liked it. Everything mentioned here, it's kind of highlights that mix of, like, the humour is not overdone. It works really well. EF mentioned that party scene. I have messaged friends since Friday who've also seen this, just saying, kiss the person on your left, just for a laugh. Because it calls to mind. And again, in the cinema, everyone's kind of chuckling and we're all really on edge as well on what's going to happen next. And it does that really well. Like, it does the genre stuff really well, and it's layered really well. So, like, I was much more impressed with this than I expected to be, because I enjoyed Milk and Cereal, but this, to me, is a huge step up. And, like, Barker, I think, he could have made a lot of easier, lazier choices that wouldn't have allowed this to be as interesting and kind of more morally sound. It is here than it could have been. So really, really top-notch horror stuff.
Yeah, to echo that, this script is so well done and well thought out. It's excellent, and I just this whole idea of like they come from YouTube. That's just But what was Spielberg doing as a kid, making their own 8mm films or whatever? That was the YouTube of their generation, and so I'm glad that it's not like Chris Stuckman. I'm glad that this is like really great filmmaking. Kevin, one last time, what's going on over at Raiders of the Podcast?
Something picked by Craig next week that I can't remember the name of, and I'd say to randomly pluck some kind of hero from my movie collection that I've not seen. The early 80s Richard Pryor movie where he's like a returning Vietnam vet. Okay. Have you had that one? Kind of dramatic role what he did. So we cover a wide and eclectic range. If Dave had seen Obsession, I was going to try and talk them round to just covering a new film for a change, which we do very, very rarely, but I don't think he got out to the cinema in time, so it's his loss for now.
Yeah.
Got it. And then EF, if you want to let the friends and listeners know about your pod and your musings.
Both my written and spoken musings are on the Exiled from Contentment blog. You could just follow me on EF Contentment, all one word, on Instagram or on Letterboxd. And right there, you'll read my brief ramblings on movies that I watched or any other weird posts. And from there, you could find links to my podcast and blog.
Excellent. And so we do our pod roll in the spoiler-free episode. Mike, parting thoughts.
Hey, listen to our friends. I can't tell you enough. Thank you, EF, for being here. Thanks for your musings. Kevin, we love you guys at Raiders. You always make me laugh. There's just nothing better than hearing you and Dave just trash on a tea kit. It's like my favorite thing. A fresh cup of coffee in the morning. It's just refreshing to hear Dave trash on some prostitute-ridden French drama. Yes, get out to live music. Go and get out there for whether it's seeing film, plays. Get out there and see things in a big group. It's fun.
Absolutely. And as always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. And don't be a stranger. And I mean that not only to the friends and listeners, but also to Kevin and EF. We'd love to have you back on a film. So if we've been asking our community to try to program the rest of the year, because I feel like there was a time where we were picking really horrible movies to review. But hopefully there's going to be an uptick of that. But if there's a film that you guys know is coming out and you want to come back, just let us know. Folks, everybody, see you on the other side. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
I love it. Perfect.
Yes.